is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the enter key on your keyboard or click the send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press enter or send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
Good day. The violence continues. This weekend seems particularly worrisome. Frankly speaking, 2 women were shot and killed last night in Nashville, Manchester, reportedly by a licensed firearm holder. 2 people were wounded in the same incident at a candlelight event. On Saturday night, a man was shot and killed in his bed by gunmen in St. Mary. A vendor was shot and killed near St. Anne's Saturday night. On Friday night, a man driving his motorcycle was attacked and shot and killed near Pedro River in rural St. Anne. That's just a smattering of the not so usual places for violence, frankly speaking. Then police fatal shootings continue. A man at a party was shot and killed by the police near Anota Bay, St. Mary on Friday night. And it goes on. Frankly speaking, police killings worry some of us. There have been more than 50 since the start of the year, or just about one a day. Jamaicans for Justice again called for body-worn cameras and said again that they consider the levels of police fatal shootings intolerable. More on this later. The Commissioner of Police says he is not training his men and women to lose when criminals with guns challenge the police. We're going to put some focus on that, but before the police fatal shooting issues, let's go back a bit. Last week, we promised a follow-up on paternity fraud. Some data suggests that between 20 and 40% of Jamaican men are falsely told they are the fathers of children that are not biologically theirs. Frankly speaking, that has all kinds of implications. Last week we heard from a popular Jamaican man, DJ, who spoke of his experience, DJ Linkage, the experience of getting 2 jackets, 2. Today we have a sociologist, social worker, psychologist, Dr. Camille Hudson, who is going to give us her views on some of the issues raised by paternity fraud. Before that, we have regular panelists, Winnie Anderson-Brown and Desmond Richards. He's a bit late. Thanks to your viewers and listeners for joining again. As ever, please share the podcast. Remember, the link to watch live takes you to the recorded version of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast later. We encourage you to subscribe. And remember, during the podcast, you may send your comments to the space provided as explained at the top of the show. You may also send your texts and voice notes by WhatsApp to 876-503-9995. That's 503-9995. So let's get going. A special welcome to you, Dr. Hudson. What are your views on paternity fraud? And tell us about the implications.
Thank you, Franklin. And a super evening to all. We are here, and it's really a pleasure to be on sharing with you paternity fraud in Jamaica. Why topic? It's on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. This is where a man is led to believe that he is the biological father of a child, when in fact he's not. This issue has a significant social, legal, and emotional implications, particularly within our Jamaican society, where familial roles and expectations are highly emphasized. Understanding paternity fraud involves not only examining the personal and interpersonal consequences, but also considering the broader cultural, legal, and psychological dimensions of this problem. So, in our Jamaica, the role of a father is often seen as vital in shaping a child's upbringing. So, the societal pressure for our men to be involved in the lives of their children can sometimes result in complications when paternity is uncertain or misrepresented. So the impact on the child is also significant as growing up in a situation where the truth about their biological or is a biological father is concealed can lead to confusion. And when I look at confusion, not only confusion, their real identity, leaving a child with some level of anger, rage, bitterness, resentment, being that bully because the stigma that is attached with all of this will bring out these examples that are brought forward. They are legal implications. So paternity fraud can have serious consequences. So here in Jamaica, as in many other countries, men may be held financially responsible for children they did not, I said, did not father, particularly in cases of child support or custody battles. This can result in significant economic burden for men who have been falsely identified as the father. And it can add an additional layer of complexity to legal proceedings. Psychologically, we are saying that the psychological consequences of paternity fraud extend beyond the immediate family. For the man who discovers he's not the biological father, there can be deep emotional distress and a sense of personal failure. Many men in Jamaica, especially those who have committed their time, their energy, not to mention their financial resources to a child, may struggle with feelings of guilt, shame, or even inadequacy. So the emotional toll of such a discovery can also lead to feelings of mistrust towards women and society on a whole. From the perspective of a child, growing up with the knowledge that they were part of a situation based on falsehoods can lead to identity crisis and confusion about family dynamics. While the child may not initially understand the gravity of the situation, as they grow older, they may struggle with the questions about their biological heritage and the reasons for this or the deceit. Now we take it from different perspectives. We coming down, like I have alluded to earlier, cultural differences or cultural dimension. So Jamaican society is characterized by a strong cultural norm or cultural norms related to family and kinship. So the extended family, yes, the extended family plays an important role, and the concepts of fatherhood. It is not always linked strictly to biological relationships. While this may offer a broad view of family identity, it also complicates the issue of paternity fraud. In many instances, even if a man is not biologically related to a child, he may still be recognized as a father figure. And you know, we have that situation last week online. You will hear about that further, especially if he has provided care and support. I would want to conclude my 2 cents. Paternity fraud in Jamaica presents a multifaceted issue with deep social, legal, psychological consequences. It highlights the complexities of family dynamics in a cultural or a culture where roles and expectations are often intertwined with personal identity. So while there is growing recognition of the importance of legal measures such as the DNA testing to address paternity fraud, there is still a need for greater public awareness and support for the parties involved. Tackling this issue requires a broader societal shift towards transparency, mutual respect, and open dialogue in the familial and social relationship. Only through
Dr.
such
Hudson,
efforts.
I'm learning a lot, hearing a lot, and I see Winnie bowing her consent in agreement with what you're saying. But what does it come out of? Does it come out of the wickedness of the woman or the woman's care towards her child that she wants to arrange proper care for him, the man she sets up?
That's a wide question. I would say sometimes she doesn't really know. Sometimes she doesn't really know. And I would say for care, because maybe the person who she got pregnant for is not that person, quote unquote, the man with the money who can really fit the financial aspect. So she was with Tom Stroke, and she sees Tom Stroke as a financially able to better able to care for her child or her children. She has to say, didn't even think about the consequence. You passed on the child to somebody who, a father who is not really his or her or the children. So wicked, I would put
You
a
have to
little chip
think
of
about it.
wickedness in it because of the environment in which I work in. I hear some wickedness come in. Them lucky. A man them name when I surf man. A man them name. So some tint of wickedness is inside of there.
Okay. Winnie, I see you shake it away, and you were very strong on this matter. Is it wickedness, Winnie?
Yes, for those who know it. Those who are promiscuous and they're not sure, some of them don't want to know. That's different. So they're not deliberate. They hide from the truth because they are not wicked. But those who know and they are deliberate and they are wicked enough to take the man to court because the poor man can't tell. A lot of wickedness is there too. And just as Dr. just said, some of them just say a man them name. So what wrong with that?
Dr. Hudson, I want to ask you as well. You mentioned some of the bitterness that children might feel, some of the insecurity among the men and so forth. And you were talking about the nice aspect of getting consciousness, getting education about it. But would you go along with the view of some that paternity test should be compulsory? Every man should have one at the birth of a child that is said to be his.
I am fully 199, 200%, 1,000,000% in agreement with this. Why I say that? This is the genesis of the child's life from birth. Why put the child through the trauma of coming up to know that the man who is my father, who I've grown to love, who I trust is not my father. So the hatred from mommy and the granny and mommy might get into a fuss or a fight. Where from yourself? John and a fee pitney, and you're making go up by man yard and him and wife might be there and all of these things. So it's built a level of confusion. So in my head, from my perspective, from the get-go, from the child comes into this world, the government of Jamaica or whomever the influencers are to step in immediately to quell any more onset of all of this dilemma that is happening, not only with the child, the mom, and the father. Because coming out of this, some murders commit somewhere along the line. I read somewhere about this lady, she was taking the man to court, suing him for $7,000 for paternal care when she knew that the child was not the man's. So to traumatize our children, to put them through any more stress than this 21st century is going to be putting on them, I think it should be done.
Winnie?
You know that I agree 1,000,000% with that. I don't even have to say that. But there's one thing I would love to say. The man who has been faithful to this woman, the man who has no other child, and he has been faithful to this woman, believing that he's the father of children. Can you imagine the pain? Can you imagine the pain? Knowing that you have been faithful to this unfaithful woman. And that happens sometimes right in church. So I won't touch that part.
Right in church.
Of course.
Dr. Hudson, you are also a church woman. You are a very, very faithful church. Doesn't this thing also cause a problem in church, or how is it dealt with?
Sir, Madam Winnie said she's not going to touch that part.
Okay.
And I am not going to be touching that part, but in my mind, it's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. And let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. We live in a real world with real people. And we all have come sin and come short of the glory of God. Yeah. But the good thing about it, we have an advocate.
Yeah.
We have
but
a man.
Okay, so I'm taking it out of the church part that you all don't want to go there. But
right.
I'm not clear yet as to why you both believe, what your views on why it takes place regularly. I mean, I know that there are many reasons it might take place. But what leads to a conscious decision to do it? Is it just the money part of it? What tells a woman, give this man a job? That's where I'd love it to help you to do.
Some of it is a ghetto culture. Because my friend them a do it and them a get through. And not only is the children benefiting, we have sting to go. We have the latest hairstyle to do. The child get the least amount out of it, because when you look at some of the children going to school, the uniform, they are on kept 3 different color buttons, 10 different color thread. The pant scratches break out, the little piece of old shoes. I go into the schools, I see them, and I do some amount of assessment with some of these women. I know of a situation where one boy has 3 fathers. He said, Miss, a 3 father me have, you know. The little boy told me that. Miss, a 3 father me have.
I know.
The poor mother was confused because she herself is not sure which of the fathers belong to the child. She alluded to say that him have the eye like, let me use a name. All right, I'm not using any name. Him have the eye like so and so. So it could be his. But one of the main reasons, though, is the financial need. The
Winnie,
financial need.
Winnie, before you
Especially
jump
when
in, you
there
want to
are,
take some of those comments, Winnie?
especially when there are more than one children in the group.
Okay,
Yes,
Winnie, you want to
let
take some of
me.
those comments? I see some comments coming in.
Yes, yes. Jeffrey says, good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Jeffrey. And Robian says, good afternoon, everyone, as well. And here comes a thumbs up from Master Jam. We have Alan Lewin saying the ladies give the men with the most money or fame. Yes. And Maisha Williams says, good evening, everyone. Let's see who else is there. And Camilless Essentials. If I didn't say that right, forgive me. Financial needs, the fact that most don't know or not sure who the father is, the need to keep a partner. That is one reason. And Alan Lewin says women who give jackets spread a lot of germs because they have unprotected sex with many men. That is what that person says. And Maisha says sometimes we all have to understand that person makes mistakes. Not every life is going to be the same. That is so
Winnie, can I get your take on what is the possibility, the main thing, and you can take the comments as you see fit. We will accept that because we want it.
Yes, Sabrina Scott says, good evening, everyone. Okay. One of the reasons I believe is some people, it's a way out for them. When they find that they are pregnant, they make a decision that, okay, I want to keep my family stable, and I don't want my partner to know that I was sleeping with someone else. So let me keep it quiet. So a number of them do that to keep their families together. So that is really deception. They try to cover it up. A number of them do that. Apart from those that we have discussed before, I don't think we have looked at that aspect of it. Those who do it just to keep the family together. They did not intend to get pregnant. It happened. They don't want to have an abortion. And some do have abortions. They don't want to have abortions. So they say, okay, this is a way out for me. I am married. And another thing, and Dr. Hudson can bear me out on this. As far as I know, once you're married, you can just give the child the father's name. It's automatic once you are married. So it is easy for those. And some men prefer married women too, because they want, men are involved in this jacket business, so it's not just women. Some men love to sleep with married women so that they can pass on anything that might happen, because they love to have unprotected sex. So they prefer the married women so that if the woman gets pregnant, a jacket is produced. So a number of reasons.
Oh.
It's not just women. Let's talk about the men too.
Patrick Maitland, you want to give us that comment there, Winnie?
Yes. Patrick Maitland says, these women are just dishonest and unfaithful. We need to reject their bad behavior. We do reject their bad behavior. We are not condoning it by any means. That is why we are looking out for the children. The children have a right to know. And if you ask me, that should be the first right of a child. The right to know your biological parents. Dead or alive. If you're adopted, that is fine, because you are chosen, you are special, because we have to take those that we give birth to, but you're chosen. So don't say, what about those who are adopted? They have a right to know that they were chosen specially.
Now, Dr. Hudson, when you mentioned there the matter of married people, I know you haven't done a study on this. You reminded me that you haven't done a study, but you have done your research. And I know you're on the ground a lot. I've been in social work business for over 20 years. But how serious and how serious an issue is it among couples, married couples?
Very serious. It causes serious separation for your, you call it in Jamaica, your good family.
Yes.
Your good husband.
Mm-hmm.
You're good. I'm not taking out for our men, because men are men, but you're good. No, you're good husband who is faithful
So
to you,
good.
who loves you, who cherishes
Yes.
you, who takes care of the family, nurture, is the macho in the home, and you do that to him. It
Sad.
starts from a separation. The children would have mommy and daddy home, coming from school, going to church together, doing things together, and all of a sudden daddy pack up in things and gone, and mommy can't tell them why. So the lying come in, the
Yeah.
dishonesty comes in. The middle
Cheating,
child is not
leaving.
the
Yes.
husband's. The middle
Yeah.
child is not the husband's. So the
What
gentleman,
do you mean by that?
all right, we have three children. So the first one is Honey's, the middle one is Bunny's, and the third one is Honey's.
Yes.
No, I'll go that again for me. Go that again for me. And I'm sure you couldn't be speaking of every couple with 3 children.
No.
Just saying this is a
I'm
possibility.
saying this is a particular situation that I got wind of. That the
Okay,
first one is for Honey,
honey.
the middle one is for Bunny, and the last one, the wash belly we call it in Jamaica, is for Honey. And all of a sudden, Honey find out about the Bunny
Yes.
because something happened down the road, and they have one Miss Liza. You think me never did
Mm-hmm.
see? Worse I come from beg
Mm-hmm.
you want money and you never get, and you dey pass by the
Mm-hmm.
get your ear, and then everything comes out. And
Mm-hmm.
this is another one also. This one gripped me. This one mentally ill. And she went to the man's house and gone call out Franklin. I'm using your name Franklin because nobody can say call them here. Mr. McKnight, Mr. McKnight, and Mrs. McKnight come out. Tell Mr. McKnight, say me want the money and give me money last night. I mean, that was a big thing in a big community. A big thing. And this is a mentally ill young lady. So it caused serious separation and breakdown, not only for the family, for the person's socialization. The
Yes.
stigma
So
that
and,
you attach.
and so let's take quickly the children before we finish the segment of the program. So what do you propose in terms of any rehabilitation, in terms of any counseling for the children now who are caught up in that and it gets known? What do you propose?
Oh, because they're underage, we have to be careful where it comes down to consent, parental consent. If they're 18 years and older, they have a right to do their own thing. 18 years and below, mom and dad, they have to be there, or mom or dad. So we can't just do any willy-nilly counseling without a
Right.
parent.
Right.
If teacher discovers this at school, the parent has to be there. So we can have one-to-one counseling with the family setting and try to regroup the family mentally, because the mental aspect and the psychological aspect is where the damage is most of the time, because that damage, to think about it all over and over and over again. Our dear friend who came on last
We,
Sunday and
Lincoln.
spoke about it, yes, Mr. Link, and he have some level of healing in his heart, because he not only looked at that the women were wicked and spiteful and earth, he looked at the children as a whole. And what I noticed, they said, that's my dad. And he accept them nonetheless, that these are my children, and continue with his role as a father. So I would suggest that we really do the one-to-one counsel with the family, whether which parent is available to do that, to have the child know that this is an adult thing, notwithstanding you are caught in the middle of it. We are going to take care of you nonetheless. So we're not going to get them in the fucker, the who say and who must blame and all of that. We're going to keep them as a child.
Yeah.
This is one of the
But
things that
you would accept that possibly some people don't talk about it because there are too many overarching arching issues, family things that are for the
too
most part
many,
it's just suppressed.
yes.
Yes.
And but isn't that better than public fight? And when you go ahead and take the comments that you can, and before Dr. Hudson comes in again.
What do you call
Yes.
public sites?
They,
Go
they
ahead.
are,
Winnie.
yes, essentials. She says, so this person says, so true. Some men don't like to take care of their responsibilities, and so they prefer to have relations with others who are already in a relationship. And the same can be said about some women also. That's one comment. There's another. Maisha Williams says, we have to understand that we can't live personal life for them. They made their own decision who is us to be justified personal life of living or the way they choose to live. That's their choice. That is and I want to comment on that comment. It's an unfortunate comment because we don't live in isolation. Everything we do affects other people. So that's the reason. Yes, and this
And
goes on. Ladies often decision that wasn't prepared for. So we can have comment from someone else. Let's see who else is there. Okay, no one else now. So Dr.
All right.
Hudson,
Okay.
I want to
So
say
Dr.
something on what
Hudson,
you
see if
said,
we
Winnie.
can.
yes,
Go ahead.
It's so unfortunate that person says that, but everyone is entitled to their opinion, though.
right,
But we
right.
must remember, we have to be cognizant that it's not only you, the male and the female, we have the children. So we have to be
Yes,
careful what we do with these little lives, these little minds, because they might grow up to think that this is culturally accepted. This is the norm of society. Hence, they grow up and the cycle continues. What are we going to be doing and I'm going to be using this as my closing point. What are we going to be doing as supposed to be responsible adults to ensure that we protect every aspect of our children, especially their little minds? Because we're going to be needing them for the future. And if their future is not properly cemented now, then tomorrow, what a society we are going to have. So we have to bring in prayer in the home, because if you pray together, some of these things will be quelled.
yes,
Dr. Hudson, Camille Hudson, thank you very much. She works over in Spanish Town, St. Catherine area generally. She's still social work. She's still attached to the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. And she does a lot of work on the ground, and we really appreciate it. One of the things that you said, and that stuck with me, is how the children might feel, how devastated their emotional situation becomes, because all sorts of emotions are in there if they find out, when they find out. All sorts of emotions are in there. Dr. Also, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast, and wish you a great week, and thanks for your insights.
Thanks for having
thank
me.
you,
Thank
Same
you
to
very
you.
much.
thanks.
Okay. Oh, we really appreciate Dr. Hudson coming in.
I just want to say this, Franklin, before we leave that
Yes,
children can be very cruel to other children as well. So that is another aspect of the problem. Children teasing.
oh, you mean like children who have heard about it in the community?
Right, and the children tease the other children at school. So that again is another side of the problem.
It can be brutal.
Yes. And
Go ahead
they
and give
can
your comments with I see them coming.
Yes, yes, this is another comment from Camille. Forgive me, the cycle will continue.
Oh boy,
Essentials. Yes.
In other words, we shouldn't really be expecting any change, but we could expect some change.
But we need.
Winnie, how can we get change in that situation? But the numbers that I see some places really indicates that it could be even more than 50%. Of the fathers. I hope not.
Franklin, we need to pay attention to this. It is important. It's a very fabric of our society. It hits at the heart of who we are as a people. So we can't ignore it.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yes.
The crime, generally speaking, but more specifically, the police's effort in the crime fight and the rising number of fatal shootings by the police. Now, police reported one instance this week, I mentioned it earlier, of a fatal shooting involving a man in St. Mary on Friday night. He's Kevin Cunningham. I think he's also called Chemical. And here is how a part of the police's report. Winnie is going to read that part of the report for us. That's Kevin Cunningham you're seeing on the screen, who was killed in a police shooting on Friday night.
Okay.
Go ahead, boss, Winnie, Robert.
Okay, I'm not seeing it on the screen. Let me see if I can find it. It's not up on the screen for me
Okay,
to.
okay. Let me see if I
It's not.
put out a bit of it here again. Since I
Let
have it on the
me.
full screen. On
If I-
Friday, February, this is a report from the police. Just a little part of the report
Yes.
I'm indicating to you. On Friday, February 21, 2025. You have it yet, Winnie? No.
No, I
No.
don't. I
Okay.
don't. I
On
don't
Friday,
have it.
February 21, 2025, at about 9:20 p.m., officers from the St. Mary Operational Support Team came under attack while shutting down an unauthorized party in Iteboreal, Hampshire Bay. That's in St. Mary. During the incident, and I'm just reading the report without any comment. During the incident, a patron brandished a firearm at the police. In response, an officer discharged his service weapon, injuring the suspect. He was transported to the Another Bay Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. The suspect was identified as Kevin Cunningham, otherwise called Chemical, a 28-year-old laborer from Crab Hall, Another Bay. Two officers were also injured during the incident. Now, that report was disputed, as so many others have been. Now, one of this is, frankly speaking, it's an issue that has been coming up a lot. Now, the police commissioner has responded, and then we also want to show you a response that came in from Arthur. Here is the police commissioner again. And we have used this one a few times because
I've taken note of the Jamaican for Justice's condemnation of what they described as intolerable number of fatal shootings by the security forces. I strongly support the view that the number of fatal shootings is too high. However, the call is wrongly directed and should be aiming at those who make the decision to challenge a far more superior force. And so let me encourage the Jamaican for Justice to be more responsible in their public pronouncements, especially when the nation is aware of its members' proven ability to comprehend the most basic and fundamental principles of security. To suggest that fatal shooting numbers can be reduced by anything other than the unwillingness of persons being apprehended to engage in deadly confrontation with members of the security forces is irresponsible, or at best, advocating for us to relent in our pursuit. We again reiterate the point that those...
Okay, and we got a part there, and the police commissioner is saying it may be too high. In fact, he says he's of the view it is too high, but the direction of the Jamaican for Justice and other people, because not just Jamaican for Justice, calling for that number to be much lower is wrongly addressed. Winnie, you have a comment on that?
I agree. I agree with the commissioner. I never believe that it is right or important as a society for us to just look at one side, just look at the police shootings, the police killings. We need to look at it in context of the society, disaggregate the numbers. What happened and how did the police respond? How many of them, they in this instance, for example, policemen were hurt. So I don't believe in just looking at the numbers of shootings by the police. I believe the context is important. To be
Can you
fair.
pick up those comments for us, Winnie, that are coming
Yeah.
in? We have a few comments coming in.
Jeffrey, where's Jeffrey's comment? Jeffrey, oh yes, Jeffrey Warren says, in regard to the police shootings, I'm not saying they should not defend themselves, but I think they're out of control, and I have heard comments from the commissioner and the security minister. Jeffrey says, and their comments do not sound professional. That's Jeffrey. Yes, another comment. Those are the ones from Jeffrey. I see no other on that issue now.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
I'm seeing from this side, but yeah, camera picked up. Now, we want to hear from Michael Jackson, who is the JFJ Executive Officer.
The surge in security force fatal shootings has reached an alarming and quite frankly intolerable number. The year-to-date total of police fatal shootings more than doubles the figure for the same period in 2024. This sharp increase is deeply concerning and unacceptable in a democracy. It is certainly unacceptable when one considers Jamaica's population size. If this trend persists, Jamaica risks regressing to the dark days before the establishment of INDECOM, when accountability for such incidents was virtually non-existent. If this trend persists, Jamaica risks eroding the gains that we have made since the establishment of INDECOM, and certainly the gains that we have made in human rights for the past decade. If this trend persists, we see the possibility of us recording significantly high number of police fatal shootings, the highest that we have seen in over a decade, because since the start of 2025, almost every single day we have seen at least one citizen killed by a member of the security force. Again, if this trend persists, it suggests that we are at risk of having over 250 citizens killed by the security force at the end of 2025. We cannot allow this rollback of progress to continue unchecked. No, JFJ makes no pronouncements that these matters are all extrajudicial killings, because we deal and look at these situations on a case-by-case basis. However, there are concerns to be had. When we look at the INDECOM press releases and the INDECOM's incident reports as they report them, we see a standard line. No body-worn cameras were recorded as being issued or worn by the officers assigned to these various operations. We have heard from the JCF leadership that data storage infrastructure is needed to be strengthened to have increased body-worn cameras be procured and deployed. However, we must demand a timeline from the JCF's leadership. We have also been told by the JCF's leadership that 750 body-worn cameras are already deployed and are being utilized. The reasonable question that one should put forward: where are the body-worn cameras in these incidents that have resulted in fatalities? We cannot allow.
Okay, thank you very much, Joshua, for helping us out with that recording from Michael Jackson, the head of the Jamaicans for Justice. And I'm going to just quickly read a comment from a very senior police officer who just sent it to me, and is saying, I'm watching your podcast and the comments by the commissioner are spot on. We are trained to assess the level of force and to take the necessary measures to mitigate these threats. Now, we're going to play the commissioner one more time, because I'm also seeing a request for that. Go again, Joshua, can you run that for us again, please?
I've taken note of the Jamaican for Justice's condemnation of what they described as intolerable number of fatal shootings by the security forces. I strongly support the view that the number of fatal shootings is too high. However, The call is wrongly directed and should be aiming at those who make the decision to challenge a far more superior force. And so let me encourage Jamaican for Justice to be more responsible in their public pronouncements, especially when the nation is aware of its members' proven ability to comprehend the most basic and fundamental principles of security. To suggest that fatal shooting numbers can be reduced by anything other than the unwillingness of persons being apprehended to engage in deadly confrontation with members of the security forces is irresponsible, or at best, advocating for us to relent in our pursuit. We again reiterate the point that those who seek to kill and maim will not be left free and unobstructed to hold communities at ransom and in constant fear. It means we make no apology to stand between these murdering thugs and the people of this country. We also wish to reiterate the idiocy of these criminal elements in seeking to engage the security forces with deadly force and expect not to be responded to with similar force. Ladies and gentlemen, our prisons and police lockups are fully populated with persons who have made the smart.
Indeed, running out of time, and I'm so sorry because we wanted to hear all of it. That's why we tried to go back. Oh, thanks to our special guest this week, Dr. Camille Hudson, and our regular panelists, Winnie Anderson Brown. Desmond wasn't here today. That's our Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast for today. Remember that the much shorter companion Frankly Speaking midweek podcast is posted on YouTube on a Wednesday. On behalf of Joshua Black, thank you so much, Joshua, for all the technical work. I was mixing up his name. I'm sorry about that. Thanks to you all, and thanks to our viewers for watching us. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.